Welcome. My name is Egan Rackley, and I'm hosting this session for our keynote speaker for the gaming track of the Global Agile Summit 2026. Today's guest has been living and breathing this topic for over 2 decades in the trenches, in the C-suite, and on the coaching floor for over 200 teams. Clinton Keith has been in the industry since the early 90s, first as a programmer and then as CTO of High Moon Studios, the studio that was, in fact, the first in the entire game industry to introduce Scrum back in 2003. Since 2008, he's been an independent Scrum trainer and Agile coach and has literally written the book on Agile game development, now in its second edition. So today's conversation is titled Game Development as We Know It is Ending, and it could get a lot better. I don't know if I got the intonation right on that, but there are obviously other sessions in the gaming track that connect beautifully to what Clinton is going to share today, so don't miss those. Check out the full lineup at globalagilesummit.com. But right now, let's dig in. Clinton, welcome to the Global Agile Summit.
Hey, Egan. Thanks for the invite. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I know you participated in our gaming talks last year, and it really meant a lot to have you opening the gaming track as our keynote speaker this year. Okay, so let's get into the questions. Question number one, the title of your talk is a pretty bold statement. Game development as we know it is ending. So when you say as we know it, I have several ideas of what that means, but what specific version of game development are we saying goodbye to?
I think largely, and this is no surprise. I mean, it might be surprising to people outside the industry, but inside the industry, we've just seen some pretty sad news over the past couple of years with all these
Yeah.
layoffs and studio closures. I mean, some studios, we've have produced some amazing games over the years. But mostly what we're seeing is, the impact of these large games, the so-called AAA games, have been impacted the most. And I think that's really just the first wave of of uh, of these studios getting hit through, market reasons and for cost reasons, especially in the United States. It's just there's all sorts of debatable reasons why it's happening, but it is happening. You could throw AI in the mix if you want
Yeah.
to, but again, it's all debatable, and we're searching for for reasons for it, but this is definitely going to drive some changes, and I feel in a good way. Ultimately,
Yeah.
not in the short term, obviously, with people losing their jobs, but things that really need to happen.
Yeah, and I've heard you describe sort of the way AAA studios work as a hit or miss model, and I think that's always been a traditional model for gaming, right? It's you have one hit and that will carry you for several releases after that. Um, those studios used to be able to absorb those failures, and I've heard you say now it can't. Is there any reason anywhere in the game industry where hit or miss will still continue to be viable?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if you can say it's happening in the indie market,
Yeah,
because there's people working out of their garage, and very few actually break even of the tens of thousands of games that are released there.
yeah,
I mean, how many would you estimate, make their money back and create a sustainable job? Um,
right.
Back when I started, it was 10 to 1. A AAA game took us a dozen people, maybe 18 months
Yeah.
to make a game that sold for 30 or $40. And, if it sold a million copies now, if it sold a million copies back then, it made a ton of money and started a franchise.
Right.
Um, we started a bunch of driving game franchises out of Midtown Madness. And you're seeing less and less of that now, where I think I saw the latest kind of average AAA break even was 6 million units. And I mean, how many games actually these days sell 6 million units?
It, yeah, it's really a challenge. So when you think about studios, with these decreasing margins and their ability to deliver revenue decreasing and decreasing, and you're saying, the game industry as we know it is ending, are we talking about sort of a slow decline, or do you think there's a hard wall coming? I mean, obviously we've been seeing the decline, but I'm kind of curious what you think the future looks like.
You know, when my first book came out 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, we were predicting it back then. You
Yeah,
know, we were seeing, like I said, it went from, early 90s, 10, 12 people to, 150 people 10 years later.
yeah.
And, back then,